And that's why I'll always cherish the time I spent with this game. It's one of my all-time favorite experiences. I am ashamed of myself for being late to the party. But let me ask you this question. Am I really?
Come now, touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow. I will not be far behind. May we meet again.
June 21st, 2024. There I was, standing in front of the cocoon of the Empyrean. I had only just slayed the Elden beast less than a month prior. I chomped at the bit to get my hands on this DLC. As I touched the withered arm to traverse into the land of shadows, my expectations were already higher than most DLCs. I was pretty much expecting a full game for $40, which is already absurd. And still, somehow, this DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, shattered my expectations into more pieces than America did the Elden Ring itself. I expected Elden Ring 1.5, and we got Elden Ring 1.75. The Land of Shadow immensely expands upon what the Lands Between had to offer in terms of quality and quantity of content. An abundance of new weapons, artistic worlds, intriguing characters, shocking plot developments, and fearsome bosses make this an expansion far more than worth your time. This add-on feels more complete than how most full games released today. Just like the base game, Shadow of the Erdtree caused a ruckus when it came out. Early reviews praised the expansion to the moon, which is where I'm leading toward. I'm gonna just let you know that right now. Then, during the first weeks of release, it got review bombed, mostly due to how the DLC severely ramped up the difficulty for bosses. The fact that Kai Cenat, who marathoned the DLC at release shortly after doing the same for the base game, had to come out and tell the community to get good, a mentality he understands extremely well for a new FromSoft player, speaks to how little of an effect these complaints could have on SOTE's momentum. And those negative reviews dissipated shortly after. In my opinion, this DLC is undeniably great, but I won't just be talking about the expansion in this review. Like I said in part 1 of the Elden Ring review, link in the description, I still had to experience the multiplayer, tinker around with my build, and dig into the lore to understand the game's story. So in total, I'll be discussing Shadow of the Erdtree's exploration, level design, difficulty, progression, and boss fights. Comparing these aspects to the base game's execution, as well as some build pieces I tinkered with, the multiplayer, the Roundtable Hold, Elden Ring's characters, lore, story, and my criticisms. I'm P34J, and this is my review of the legendary Elden Ring. Usually, I like to get straight to the main subject of the video, but this experience was epic, and I want to build things up in this video. So we're going to start at the heart of Elden Ring, the Roundtable Hold. Forgot to discuss it in part 1, so I'm throwing it in here. It's a hub world that ekes out glory, nobility, chivalry, treachery, struggle, and darkness without mutual exclusivity. The Roundtable Hold grants safety, most of the time, from the chaos engulfing the Lands Between, in a similar way to the Firelink Shrine, but it's more enforced via 2 factors. 1, there's a non-aggression pact keeping you from attacking NPCs that are pivotal to your progression in the game. The same with other areas like the Volcano Manor. 2, the Roundtable Hold is only accessible via fast travel and is disconnected from the Lands Between. Also, similar to the Nexus in the Hunter's Dream, there are a lot of available resources for progression in this hub world. You can fortify weapons via smithing, buy stuff from the Twin Maidens, gain remembrance weapons and boss armor from the Finger Reader, tune up your spirit ashes, and even gain spells and incantations in exchange of intel we share with pussy-ass Sir Gideon Offnair, the all-knowing bitch of the Roundtable Hold. But speaking of that, Snake, there's an eclectic set of personalities to interact with in the Roundtable Hold. It's pretty big too, with some extra rooms you can unlock via stone sword keys. Conflict still finds its way into the Hold, however, as you can battle with an invading sorcerer by jumping off the balcony, and there's another invader that's apparently sent by... I'm already getting pissed off here. I'm gonna try to stay on track. But the point is, the Roundtable Hold is one of the best hub worlds I've been in. It rivals the Fortress of Doom in my opinion, as both worlds have important progression methods and an expressive art style, but the Fortress of Doom's variety of activities, huge size, and puzzle-like nature is enough to match the Roundtable Hold's interesting interactions between characters and hostiles. I still like the Fortress of Doom a bit better, just personal preference. You can also access arena multiplayer from the Roundtable Hold, which is actually a lot more fun than I anticipated. I thought with Elden Ring's focus on PvE, that the arena multiplayer wouldn't feel very fun due to its backseat position. I'm glad to say I was wrong here. I've only played a few matches at the time of writing, but I've played enough to know that I like what I see here. I definitely enjoy this multiplayer more than X Defiant for sure. I anticipate the infamous unbalancing due to different builds, especially because I'm not an expert on making builds, but that doesn't take away from the skill gap or overall fun factor. Halo 2 was unbalanced, and they turned that into one of the earliest and most influential esports of all time. WWE games have been historically unbalanced. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is going to be unbalanced. And I have enjoyed games in these series for years. I'll bet frenzied masochists like Let Me Soloer and Miss Mika can probably outplay broken multiplayer builds the same way they did Millennia. The cat and mouse nature of the combat is compelling. I think breaking neutral is the primary objective, because if it's not an Ash of War skill combo, you're not going to stun lock your opponent for very long. Sprint, dodge roll, jump, and backstep provide each player with a decent number of outs, similar to Halo's 5 and Infinite's movement mechanics, but this multiplayer can be much less forgiving depending on the amount of damage a player can give. Also, I did not expect duos to be a 3-minute Iron Man match. This mode was epic, and I definitely want to play more one day. As for the co-op, I intentionally avoided it for the majority of my playthrough because I wanted to earn my victories across the lands between. Once I leveled up and was able to significantly contribute to my family's worlds, I do play a lot with my family as far as games in general, this became an unforgettable conquest. I had to sacrifice my life for a lot of grams to finish off Milana. I basically played human chess right there, took a bullet for the team. I didn't expect co-op to be so intense, but I guess the health increase pulled out the aggression and decision making skills out of all of us. Except for the Ancient Dragon Man. We stomped his ass out, rolled him up with some more shit.
Hey, I just ran a circle and charged this dropkick on this nigga, bruh. That was cold.
Even running the ones on the gravesite planes was more fun than I thought it would be, in a similar vein to Coliseum singles battles. Of course, I can't forget to talk about the invasions. From the aggressor standpoint, I was only successful like once or twice. Hey man, White Mask forced me to do it. How else was I gonna get to the DLC? I kept getting put against threes. Like, how am I supposed to succeed if I got the Akatsuki posted up waiting for me? But hey, it sucked when it happened to me, but it felt pretty good giving that energy back. You know we gotta talk about the dumbasses, the fuck around to find outs. Man, we jade the shit out of some invaders. And let's not forget the iconic, helpful messages on the ground from honest people with great advice who never lie. Or the warnings you get from spirits from other worlds currently surviving your same area. Or the bloodstains from fallen tarnished warriors. The Coliseum PvP is a fun experience separate from the campaign, and the multiplayer summons, invasions, messages, spirits, and bloodstains complement the campaign experience. Elden Ring's story is top tier, but do not sleep on its multiplayer. Really wish I would have found a match in that 6-man free-for-all. That would have been some epic chaos right there. I did a lot of exploration in the base game, but I never put too much focus on exploring the arsenal I built. I came across a sword, and if it was doing enough damage, then there was no fixing needed. I only really used the Grafted Blade Greatsword, the Lord's Horn Greatsword, and the Dark Moon Greatsword. So I made it a goal to tinker with a few new weapons, sorceries, and incantations, both base game and DLC. I'm no expert, so I didn't really know how to break anything, but it was nonetheless fun to explore my armory with such a diverse array of tools. Damn near dried myself out of larval tears as well. I expected the Sacred Relic Sword to be quite broken, but it wasn't. Still cool visually though. I heard how good the Blasphemous Blade was, possibly the best weapon in the game, so I switched to that to see how it would affect my playthrough. It didn't make things too easy, but it definitely packed a harder punch than any other weapon I'd used. It also supplies healing opportunities. I stuck with it because the DLC was merciless regardless, which might just make me trash, but alright. I had used some sorcery to take down a Ghost Flame Dragon who was fighting village soldiers. The first time that I'd done so since... For Christ's sake, man. Just the mere indirect mention of that bitch sends me into a frenzied flame, and I'm trying to hold it together, but it's hard. It's hard. Oh, it's hard. There are some incantations, talismans, and wondrous physique tiers I use to buff certain stats, but by far, there are 3 weapons that I like the most, even though I didn't use them to beat the game. The Caestus from the base game, and Dane's Dry Leaf Arts for both fists and footwork. These are my favorite weapons, and it is for one simple reason: melee combat. I gotta respect the hands. What can I say? I've played my fair share of fighting and wrestling games over the years, and hand-to-hand combat has historically been my preference for video games, even before I got into first-person shooters. It's the reason why I made that video about fighting mechanics in Halo. Link to that in the description. Elden Ring has a fun sandbox to play with, and it makes the exploration worth the player's time. It's also another reason as to why there's no need for an easy mode, because you can create some pretty broken builds. There's still a ton of toys I haven't played with, and I'm looking forward to experimenting in future playthroughs. On the surface, it might seem like story isn't a major focus for Elden Ring, much like Doom Eternal and Remnant 2, because the game isn't heavy on cutscenes, all the dialogue can be quite ambiguous, and the lore itself has major events that are unclear. But there are some key differences that make this game's story and lore hit differently for me. Elden Ring's story doesn't have a rigid infrastructure. Usually games have a solid, linear story that can be summarized easily to a certain degree. Halo 2 is about the Master Chief stopping the Covenant from blowing up the galaxy with another Halo ring, while the Arbiter discovers the corruption and manipulation present in the Covenant, subsequently embarking on a road to redemption. Pac-Man World Repack is a children's story about Pac-Man saving his family from a ghost who simply wanted attention and friendship, and you have the choice between the path of vengeance or forgiveness. Even Doom Eternal is about the Doomslayer saving mankind from the forces of hell, partially caused by mankind's own mistakes, and I think he wants vengeance for his rabbit? You don't get this structure handed to you in Elden Ring. The major 2 plot points are ambiguous. We don't know why Marika shattered the Elden Ring, and we don't have a solid reason as to why we want to become the Elden Lord. From Software decided to sprinkle some concrete facts in between and around these 2 plot points, and it's up to the player to fill the gaps. Why Marika shattered the Elden Ring is up to your interpretation, and why you want to slay her is for you to decide via the game's RPG elements and your choice of ending. Surrounding these 2 plot points are a cast of characters and set of events which also each have their own solid facts, ambiguities, and interpretations. The facts come from dialogue via cutscenes, interactions, and side quests, and item descriptions, and these facts are used to make inferences about the ambiguous parts of the story. The side quests and stories for each character in general don't seem to come in a particular order very often, and that's where the Elden Ring community went ham. I started watching a bunch of lore videos from various content creators, and I read some Elden Ring fandom entries to try to make sense of the entire story to see if I could describe it in as close to a linear summary as possible. And while I can't necessarily do that in the fashion you could do for a more traditional linear story, or like how I did for Mortal Kombat 1, Doom Eternal, or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, I can still make basic sense of the story to a certain degree, but the story is so vast that I can't do it in this video. Putting together the lore for Elden Ring is like a giant game within the game, and it's a testament both to how fun and well designed the story and lore structure is, and how hungry and dedicated the Elden Ring lore community is. This is why I feel non-direct storytelling worked better for Elden Ring than it did for Doom, because Elden Ring's narrative's ambiguity and RPG elements allow for the player to fill in the gaps with interesting interpretations. We don't need a concrete reason behind Marika shattering the Elden Ring. We can go search for bits and pieces and make our own educated inferences. Elden Ring thrives on its ethereal, formless story structure. I talked about my personal emotions from the story via its presentation and challenge in part 1, and I also said that I wanted to see if, after research and understanding, the story is actually good.
Man, so far I am pleasantly surprised. Weirded out a bit with the Dung Eater and Mikola, but pleasantly surprised nonetheless.
And it's because the nuance behind each character via the facts and possible interpretations / theories is so rich, it's like watching a good anime. Except you get to play it as well, and it can play out in multiple ways.
Hold on. I gotta get my voice right for this. You know, I've been watching y'all. Let's see if I can get it right.
When you dig for the info for each character, you find out that most of them are fleshed out pretty well, each with their own unique struggles. Most don't have a happy ending, but you can glean some sort of valuable theme throughout all of their experiences, relationships, beliefs, and concepts. Take the Golden Order, for example. Much like the government and church in real life, it wants to present itself as righteous, the good guys. Visually, it gives off quote-unquote holier-than-thou vibes. Leyndell, the golden armor, trumpets, and incantations are pleasing to look at. The concept of order seems civilized. But as mature adults, we all know there are piles of dirt under these types of organizations, and the Golden Order is no different. Colonization, genocide, bigotry, adultery, betrayal, greed, abuse, and neglect. All of that is going down in the Golden Order, which is why the majority of everyone, including Marika herself, wants to tear it down. Protecting the Golden Order caused Morgott, Mohg, Messmer, and Rennala to get abandoned. Morgott and Messmer to spend their lives in self-hatred and misery. Godwyn to get murdered. Godfrey and his Tarnished to get sent to die. Marika to be imprisoned, and the world to descend into war over its power. Everybody in this game has been struggling, and very few of them have been pure evil with no relatable motives. Most of everyone has a past that the player can sympathize with to a certain degree, via understandable intentions. Marika wants to search the Golden Order for its true meaning, so she takes action to deconstruct and rebrandish the...
Alright, I'm not doing that for the whole video, bro. Hey man, I just want to do my shit real quick. I'm done.
Marika wants to search the Golden Order for its true meaning, so she takes action to deconstruct and rebrandish the Elden Ring, sort of cleansing the Golden Order. The duality of how the Omen brothers handle their genetics and prejudiced banishment is interesting. Morgott devotes himself to the Golden Order, curses his horns, and spends his life protecting the Erd Tree for those who dare try to take its power. He believes in the system of the Golden Order like an extreme religious zealot, even hating himself in the process as he holds order at the highest priority. He doesn't care about his own happiness, which is why it makes sense that he wants to extinguish the flame of ambition within us in favor of duty. Mohg, oppositely, embraces his Omen lineage, and through becoming a powerful blood mage with the Formless Mother, he finds purpose to create a dynasty where his followers can be accepted and coexist cooperatively. Ranni doesn't want to become a puppet to the greater will after seeing how Marika was treated, but ironically, she becomes a doll through her own actions. Hell, even Roderika struggles with courage and purpose as her comrades die trying to fight Godric, but she's too scared to go out boxing. But through meeting us, reaching the Roundtable Hold, and being mentored by Hugh, she finds purpose in mastering spirit tuning and honoring the memory of her fallen comrades. You see, everybody's got some baggage, everybody's got some motivation, and everybody's willing to go through extreme measures, grueling trials, and integrity testing tribulations to reach their goals. None of the characters are perfect, in fact, far from. Especially the ones who are willing to kill, defile, neglect, or betray to reach their own goals. But almost every character exudes conviction, refusing to waver in their beliefs, even if it kills them. If every person in society were a cult of personality, taking their beliefs to the most extreme of measures and enduring the worst conditions possible to form, sharpen, and test their beliefs throughout their entire lifetime, then life would be Elden Ring. Not only is this an interesting take on the story, but it can be further explored in the future. What if a major character does falter in their goals in favor of their morals? What kind of ramifications would that have on the story? What if Marika tried to indoctrinate the Omen twins into society, or fight to make her kingdom accept her kids without questioning her rule? What if Melania refused to target Radahn on Mikola's behalf? What if Mesmer defied his mother's order of genocide in the Shadow Realm? Maybe a case of this has happened and I haven't come across it yet. The closest I've seen is Nefeli Lu denouncing the actions of her adopted father, that piece of shit.
Alright, let me get this out of my system real quick.
Nigga, fuck Sir Gideon. In part 1, I discussed how Gideon switched up on us, tried to stop us from becoming an Elden Lord, and how he was my personal worst boss fight in the entire game, which he still is for not throwing a single melee attack.
I ended my rant with the following statements.
I would rather fight and die to Melania for another 10 hours than ever have to fight or even look at this pathetic pussy again. I have absolutely no respect for this dead bitch. Fuck you, you whole ass nigga, and I will spit and shit on your fucking grave every time I pass by.
And I stand by these statements vehemently, as they are only reinforced after you dig into Gideon's lore. There's a reason why they call him the personification of pussification.
He don't ever step outside. He got goons everywhere doing his dirty work while he get to sit there and read books all day. He slaughtered a whole village just for a medallion, disowned his daughter after she called him out on it, planned on sending his bodyguard to kill us, and backed out of becoming Elden Lord because when he somehow glanced at the results,
I think he may or may not have had some sort of vision from Marika. That's kind of ambiguous.
He was too much of a bitch to follow through. After everything that man did, unlike most characters in this game, he did not have the conviction or balls to follow through with his plan, or to even attempt to make the lives he ruined mean something in the end.
I'm smoking that goddamn Sir Gideon pack for life. Gideon is such a good villain. Now, I don't even want to discuss how good of a villain he is. I just want to continue to say fuck him.
Back to the point though, what if a character faltered in favor of the good side? If some lore came out where a demigod or like Godfrey or some couldn't commit an act because of their moral compass, and even further had to fight someone they were working with to avoid said act, then it would be a fresh take in the world of Elden Ring. But for now, most of the characters go through with their plans, no matter how extreme they seem in comparison to the real world. And where the player, the maidenless tarnished of no renown, become Elden Lord, fits in, is that everyone is either trying to kill you to gain the power of the Elden Ring, or manipulate you to do it for their own purposes. Ultimately, you decide your purpose. As it stands, this world that George R.R. Martin built so that Hidetaka Miyazaki could tear it down is a rich dystopia.
It's time, folks. It's time for the main event. The reason why you clicked on the video. Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. Allow me to tell you about my scars from the Scadutree.
Starting with a subject that was already a point of contention for every Souls game and expansion before. Difficulty. This DLC severely ramped up the hard times for all players. I thought I was getting rolled up before. Boy! Larger health pools, smaller dodge windows, longer combos, dangerous level design, the whole 9 yards. From Software packed some heat this time around.
The bosses were the main subject of controversy, and it caused a huge initial outcry from the Elden Ring community. SOTE got review bombed on Steam because niggas is getting their ass mocked. Hold on. Let's just push the previous Souls games to the side for a second. Gaming community, haven't we recently been here before? Yeah, I think that we've been here before. As I examined the aftermath of the Ancient Gods expansion for part 2 of my Doom Eternal review, I discovered that difficulty was a hot discussion point of Tag 1. id Software mercilessly ramped up the difficulty for their first DLC with the same level of conviction of Elden Ring's developers and characters. And similar to Shadow of the Erdtree, there was an initial pushback. id wanted the player to have mastered the gameplay loop of Doom Eternal in the base campaign so that they could introduce new elements and really challenge the player. And it was a fair challenge. I can't even really think of anything that was particularly bogus off the top of my head, but it wasn't universally loved. So they decided to make Tag 2 even easier than the later levels of the base campaign. And you know what happened? Even bigger backlash. Rage. Hatred. And it was on a higher level than usual. Under the Mayo was so pissed off, he had to redo his whole review because he felt his initial reaction added to the toxicity. There were even death threats sent by some bad apples to id. Tag 2 wasn't even bad. It was an excellent experience. But it's a testament to how high Doom Eternal set the standards. The fact that id wanted to appease all players led to them contradicting the framework of Doom Eternal and therefore their own design philosophy, bringing them undesired results. I bring this up because From is not only in id's shoes right now, but they've been here before, and they've never questioned their resolve. Shadow of the Erdtree is Elden Ring's Tag 1, and if From Software caves in to the carnal demands of frustrated community members for a future title, we're gonna get a Tag 2 situation, and no one will be happy. Luckily, not only does FromSoft realize this, but it seems like the community as a whole sees this as well, which is why the Steam reviews went back to mostly positive. Here's my 2 cents. I find Elden Ring's difficulty to be mostly fair in both the base game and DLC, with very few complaints. I find the loop of timing a boss's combo length, wind-up length, and ranged attacks to dodge accordingly, applying the right amount of aggression to posture break, to be stimulating. If your complaints about the game are out of disliking of this gameplay loop, especially if you're an OG Souls fan who doesn't jive with the increased reliance on these tropes, then I understand your subjective gripes, even though I am not personally negatively affected. If your complaints are about aspects that toe or cross the line of unfair difficulty, then I empathize with you. But if your complaint is simply that the game is too hard, just get good, bruv.
And I'm getting through these motherfuckers, bro. It's a skill issue. I'm assing your ass. But your ass, though. Because you really, say it's too hard. Nigga, put your big boy pants on, go out there, and go fight. What are you talking about? Here's the thing, right? This is the first major release since the actual game 2 years ago, correct? Yes or no? If you went through all that hassle 2 years ago, why the fuck would they make a DLC for you to breeze past and be done with in a day or 2? Make it make sense, my nigga.
Just like the base game, Shadow of the Erdtree's exploration is on fleek. In the lands between, you get a girthy smorgasbord of items, ranging from weapons, armor, ashes, weapon and ash upgrades, crafting materials, consumables, key items, spells, notes, you name it. In the DLC, you get that, plus hella smithing stones. But don't be blinded by those smithing stones. It's still a bunch of weapons and such. Only now, the game supplies you with the surplus of upgrade materials needed to use said items is all. This is definitely felt with the Ancient Dragon, Normal, and Somber Smithing Stones, which can't be bought from anywhere, but you can find a good chunk of them by fighting and exploring in this DLC. This game is densely packed, and while there are a few areas that may seem a bit barren, namely the Finger Ruins, I personally wasn't affected because I was too busy anticipating a fearsome boss while simultaneously being mesmerized by the beauty, story, and variety of the vistas. All this makes me harken back to 2 points from the first video. 1, 2.
The graphics are dog shit. 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 The graphics are dog shit.
Shitty graphics. Shitty graphics. And then you look at the graphic style. It's a joke.
From so been poppin', they ain't just hot now. Tell me why Elden Ring got the game on lockdown. And the only title that could possibly get written is Mighty Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton. Developers was hating loudly, but the UI criticism was missing cause y'all was swinging wildly. That review was dumber than we grinded for 3 hours since the whole Godric sword. Based on the ring was brimmed with hella content and they still went and got us more. Shadow of the Earth tree coming out. Elden Ring about to steal out the cloud. Most of the criticism was fickle. Bad graphics, I am thoroughly tickled. No bullshit monetization, live service or corporatization. No drip feeding content or waiting. Take all my money, just take it, just take it! And fuck the Earth tree, don't give a shit about orders. That piece of shit is a parasite invading the borders. I'm lighting that bitch up. I'ma kindle the flame. Y'all know what it is. Dark Souls is the name of the game.
The graphics are dog shit. 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 The graphics are dog shit.
Shitty graphics. Shitty graphics.
They changed up the side dungeons as well. There's 4 nameless mausoleums that lead to bosses, the new forges are puzzle dungeons that lead to a loot reward at the end, and the catacombs often bridge areas of the map together. There's a guy in the woods near the gravesite plains you can defeat to earn the Beast Claws. You can taunt at Dryleaf Dane to fight him for the Dryleaf Art's hands. Let's not forget the story bits and remembrance bosses you'll find as you lurk around. I'll get to the bosses later. Hold on. What the hell?
Bale! Vile Bale! Oh, terror incarnate!
What's wrong with you, nigga?
There is life in me yet! I will soon feast upon your heart! Mark my words! You too shall know fear!
This nigga got hate in his heart.
Hey yo! Why dude so mad? Who the fuck is Bale? Now I want him boxed! POIs that aren't related to the main required path are much harder to find this time around. I reached the final boss before I located like 6 remembrances that I had left to kill, so I had to stop and look things up again. Once more, not the game's fault, it's just that this is only my second Souls game, and I've never been really good at hide and seek anyway, so the fact that this DLC is $40 and feels more complete than even some great games at release is a godlike achievement on the part of From Software. It's not just big for no reason. You're always gonna find story, beauty, loot, or a surprise. There's variety and difficulty in the level design too. They air you out in the ancient ruins of Ra, they stomp you out and shoot you around Castle Instance. Explosive barrels can be found near the Shadow Keep, and the Divine Beastmen chase you down in the final area. I died a bunch of times to fodder just like I did in the base game. The way the art style, graphics, exploration, and level design all mesh together to create immortal environments that will be remembered for decades needs to be studied. The furnace giants visually and physically add to the desolation caused by destruction in the Shadow Realm. Fighting them felt like mini-boss versions of the fire giant, and you got some decent loot off of them as well. So that's another fun quest for the world. The armored ones require fire pot offense, so I anticipate gathering and crafting the materials to kill them as well. There was a spot out in the open where a battalion of village soldiers were fighting a ghost flame dragon. I had to jump in to take parts, and I got slaughtered as collateral. So as mentioned earlier, I honestly had to hit up Renala so I could blick his ass.
Hey, don't you judge me. I rarely use sorcery. I'm playing who gives a fuck for real. Play the game how you want.
The jagged Drake Peak felt perilous, almost hopeless. The sight of piles of dead dragons lining up to the mountain, accompanied by a red sky, clouds, and lightning, and multiple dragon encounters, including a triple threat, culminating in one beast of a boss fight. It's a violent whirlwind.
In the Abyssal Woods, one of the coldest spots in the entire game.
There is no area like it. Its eerie, foggy, spooky Halloween vibes immediately set it apart from everywhere else. But then you add that Torrent is frightened and you can't ride on horseback. Why? After everything that Torrent has witnessed us go through, he recently conjured up the horse balls to step up to the Elden beast. Now you've got my attention. And we'll get to that later. But I've never been so happy. Not complacent, not content, not apathetic, but happy, elated even, to not be able to ride Torrent in an entire area of the game, because it adds to the lore, atmosphere, and gameplay. For the first time in Elden Ring, there is a mandatory stealth section. I was a bit trepidatious about how it would play out, but the atmosphere was already holding me up. Dodging these frenzy monsters was a fairly difficult affair, as you had to crouch so they couldn't hear you, hide in foliage so they couldn't see you, and avoid these frenzy plants so they couldn't detect you. There's 2 of these sections before you get to the legacy dungeon as well. So after I died like 10 times from the first section, eventually passing it, I was a bit paranoid about the next, fearing the tedium of having to walk all the way back. I died. And you know what happened? Boom! Steak America, dead smack in the middle. This did numbers for me, as it took away from the long walks of shame that I'm used to from the past. And to make things easier, there's a talisman that silences your footsteps to allow for sprinting, and you can actually parry these creatures for the kill. Controversial for me to say, but the Abyssal Woods is one of my favorite areas of the game. Not to mention Midra's Mansion is like a maze. Last thing I'll mention is something I forgot to talk about in the base game. The environment is largely interactable. There aren't any wacky physics like Halo 3, if that's what you're looking for, but from doors, levers, teleporters, treasure chests, illusory walls, breakable objects, and environmental destruction and boss fights, the immersion is boosted. The challenge of getting to certain places and loot makes the exploration sweeter. Point is, there's immersion enhancing, diverse, and challenging level design, just as there was in the base game. Progression in SOTE is much the same as the base game. Level up stats with runes, upgrade weapons with smithing stones, upgrade asses with glove wards. But in lieu of golden seeds to gain more flask slots, and sacred tears to upgrade how much your flasks recover, we have 2 tools. Revered Spirit Ash Blessings level up stats for Spirit Ashes, and Torrent exclusively for the DLC. I wasn't really worried about those because I had never used a Spirit Ash up to that point. I also wasn't overly concerned about the other, more controversial upgrade.
Shadow Realm Blessings. America might not approve, but Merrick does.
These blessings upgrade all your stats within the Land of Shadow. My take on the Scadutree fragments is as follows. 1. Practically every upgrade in this game is a difficulty slider, so the Scadutree fragments are just another argument against difficulty. 2. I never went out of my way to find Scadutree fragments. I just found them naturally as I progressed through the game. I was just getting enough fragments to get by, and it worked. The only thing I would have possibly wanted to go searching for fragments for is the final boss stage. And I hit the upgrade drop-off point before that. After like level 12, you don't get as much of a stat boost. So that won't even help much in the end. Worked wonders for the rest of the bosses though. It's just not gonna work for the final one. There's other cheese methods for him. All in all, progression in SOTE was a bit more narrow due to all the upgrades I already had beating the base game, but that's to be expected. Didn't make the DLC too easy as well. Just the way I like it. It's go time, folks! The boss battles. Honestly, they outrank the base games on average. The worst boss fight in the DLC is the Golden Hippopotamus, and he outranks like 4 bosses from the first game. The reason why I say the DLC bosses are better on average is because they are more balanced, more challenging, more cinematic, or a combination of the 3. You know, you got the minor bosses around the land, like the mausoleum bosses, a host of dragons, and some hungry bears. They're all pretty entertaining. But the first boss I fought was the Death Knight, and he did his thing right out the gate, setting me in my place to let me know that I might have beaten America and the Elden Beast, but this ain't gonna be a cakewalk. A message that was heavily reinforced by the first main boss. The Divine Beast, Dancing Lion. Let me tell you that this boss would have been the best boss I had fought thus far, ranking over any base game boss, if it didn't feel like the videography was directed by former WWE producer Kevin Dunn. This boss fight will make you want to hurl like a never-ending roller coaster ride, and it felt the same emotionally. I mean, even if you take into account that you're not supposed to lock on the whole time, that don't help when he keep pinning you against the wall so you can't move, let alone see his animations. Bro, I thought he was playing Street Fighter. The arena is too damn small for this big ass boss. Not to mention I was having consistent frame rate drops. These issues took the Divine Beast down a few pegs, but it was still an awesome boss. I like how his different phases required me to change my approach for the fight. I had to be aggressive on his wind stage, passive on his lightning stage, and balanced against his ice. I'm not going to complain about the ground lightning, as I have reason to believe there's a way to dance around it, and that it was just a skill issue for me. Because I thought the same thing about the final boss before I found a way to get around that. Right out the gate, this motherfucker took me 12 hours to beat. What the hell is this? I expected a difficulty leap, but what I didn't expect is for the very first major boss of the DLC to immediately take longer than Malenia, the hardest boss in the base game. I was salty as fuck. I went to sleep mad as hell, and I had to go to work the next morning. I was having none of it, so I had to hurry up and smoke his ass before I left. Never went into work so happy in my life. Next up was Rolana, the Twin Moon Knight. If Malenia was a more balanced carrion knight, she would be Rolana. There were like 4 or 5 Godfrey level fights in this DLC, and this was surely one of them. Elden Ring is rated M, but Rolana's Hands was rated E. Just a knockout, drag out brawl full of dodges and staggers. She even did what very few bosses in this game have done by requiring me to use the jump button. Not gonna lie, a Twitch chatter warned me, and because of that, I have never been hit with Twin Moons. Easily the most balanced attack in the entire game. I have been hit with fodder sword swings, but I will never get hit by Twin Moons. Rolana's the first boss I got to kill both solo and cooperatively, and both fights were epic. As we approach the Shadow Keep, we get a prompt. A great rune has broken, and so too has a charm. I made my way to the Specimen Storehouse to talk to Sir Ansbach, the All-Learning, who is basically Sir Gideon without the bitch factor, and a loyal servant to Moog, whom we slaughtered to get to the Land of Shadow. He drops one of the most shocking plot twists in video game history. An absolute mind fuck.
Well, what's this? Yes, I should have known. Even the truth was itself mere folly. As if using Lord Moog to gain entrance to the Land of Shadow were not enough, he plans to use his corpse as the vessel of his king consort. He has forsaken
Lord Moog's soul. He desires only his empty shell. It beggars belief, but I'm afraid Tender Mikola fails to grasp the humiliation implied by this act. One thing is certain. My dear lord deserved better.
No way. Ain't no way. Mo beat the allegations! What? 2 years straight, we've been spitting on this man's grave, calling him a certified lover boy, a 69 guy, and he didn't do it. He was molested? I mean, he's still a piece of shit for kidnapping war soldiers and whatnot, but this is a whole new level of freaky activity that was almost universally accepted as truth. But it's been a lie all along? Now the gun is pointed at the head of Mikola. How could you do this? You gotta be a sick individual to frame a man for this kind of criminal activity. And then you got us to do your dirty work. You mind controlled him, framed him, then got him boxed, and now you're parading around with his dead corpse. Why would you violate Moog to such an absurd level? And what do you need his dead body for?
Yes, of course. I see. As the Festival of War concluded, General Radahn's soul met an honorable end, but kindly Mikola wishes to revive it, which is fine by me. I know it would pain old Jeren, but war has always suited General Radahn best, and certainly far more than any honorable death. Endless war to invigorate the soul, as befits General Radahn, the great lion.
What the fuck is going on here? You bringing back Radahn? Oh, okay, I gotta figure this shit out. After that, there was the golden hippopotamus, which is another big bitch in a small arena. Oh, okay, that's twice now. That's 2 times. I'm not a fan of getting roly-poly into oblivion, and I can't even see what the fuck is going on. Like, damn, he a decent fight, but that shit be taking everything out of me.
Pussypotamus! Fuck this nigga! Golden pussypotamus! What a bitch! Pussification! Confirmed! You bitched up, bruh. You bitched up, bruh. I'ma call out shit. You bitched up.
But there are more bodies to pile up, so I headed to the ancient ruins of Ruah to take down Romita, saint of the oh, come on now! Another giant boss in a small arena, god damn it! At least this one wasn't as bad with the camera angles though, and the arena was a little bit bigger. And she was a pretty good boss fight, as are most bosses in this game. Figured out kindling was the only way to get through those shadow branches, which was only possible by defeating the face of Shadow of the Erdtree, Messmer the Impaler.
Mongrel intruder.
Mongrel? Do this nigga think he is Gilgamesh?
That tarnished, it seemeth.
What a tragic backstory this man has. Messmer wasn't just sent to the Shadow Realm to commit genocide against the Hornset. He was abandoned. And as he did the dirty deeds of his mother's will, he may have thought that there was some sort of noble cause for the Golden Order, for the greater will. No. We actually come across Marika's childhood home in this DLC, where her people, the shaman, were constantly persecuted by the Hornset. And by persecuted, I mean melded into jars with other people to become saints. This game is insane. So the Hornset genocide is a crusade of vengeance, and Messmer was just a tool for his mother's vendetta. Not only that, but Messmer was also tasked to
to seal off the Gate of Divinity as it contained some info that may have America's subjects question her rule. What was that info? No doubt has something to do with the littering of skulls everywhere. Likely a betrayal of some sort. Definitely a disturbing activity committed by America to ascend to godhood. Mesmer no doubt had rage toward his mother. Stoic attitude and unwavering loyalty be damned. And I'm positive he wanted to release some of that anger on us. Or at least that's how it felt, because boy, he came with nuts. Fast combos, slow swings, range on the staff, AoE attacks. Mesmer has a diverse arsenal. He has the chops, and his transformation is sick. Rykard wishes he was this cool. Apparently he had a snake in his body at birth, an affliction, which may be a sign along with his red hair that Ratigan might be his pops. And that golden eye may be some sort of device to keep the snake in check.
No, Mother. Forgive me.
Well, it's gone now, and that snake is hungry for some tarnish. Matter of fact, he was hungry when we first walked in. The snake transformations are mesmerizing, pun intended. The melee combat is epic. Everything seems dodgeable. This is just an excellent, well-rounded fight. Definitely Godfrey level. It's sad though, because the whole time, Mesmer never steps out of line. Always follows his mother's orders, blindly and devoutly. He even asks for his mother's forgiveness when he rips his eye out. He's damn near brainwashed at this point. The stranglehold his mother has on him is almost worse than Miquella's charm. He is loyal to his mother up until the bitter end.
I got him!
America, a curse upon thee.
Mesmer isn't an innocent man, but I can't help but feel sorry for him. I did the kindling, made my way through the Scadutree branches, teamed up with Ansbach for a chaotic tag team gauntlet match, and got all the way up to the Gate of Divinity.
My loyal blade and champion of the festival. Both your deeds will ever be praised in song. Now, the vow will be honored, and my lord brother's soul will return, so that he may be my consort.
This is Radon. But guess what? I got screwed. They just blocked me from, they just blocked me from using, I got to the menu, I swear to God I got to the menu on time. They said I couldn't trade my shit because I got attacked. What the fuck? Where my shit at? Where my, no, I just 300,000. That didn't even give me the icon! Bitch, why is it on? That was 300 fucking thousand rooms, bruh.
But there were still other heads to hunt. I heard from somebody at work, from all places, that it was a sunflower with freaking 3 lives. As soon as I heard 3 lives, I snapped in my head. I was ready to slide. And slide I did against the Scadutree avatar. Much like the Red Wolf of Radigan, this boss was offensively strong, but defensively weak. Here, it was due to the flower head weak spot, and critical hits would bleed into its next health bar. That charging animation was funny, not gonna lie. The sunflower was a bit passive, but moderately aggressive for the most part, and it ultimately was another banger of a boss fight. I liked the aggression on display from the putrescent knight, and he threw me for a loop while learning how to dodge his attacks. There was even a Sudoku minigame after his fight, via a drink from Saint Trina? Mikola's other half?
Oh. Don't turn the poor thing into a god.
She's telling us to kill Mikola, grant him mercy, and free him from the prison of godhood. What exactly is Mikola up to? The only complaint I have about Commander Gaius is that the fight is set in an open field. He rides on a board, but fighting on Torrent is woefully ineffective, a contradiction in design. To be fair, I did dodge his charging attacks while on horse a few times, and there's probably a consistent way of doing so, but if it isn't just as viable as fighting him on foot, if the consistent dodge of his attacks while on horse is any more difficult than fighting him on foot, then it's a design flaw in my opinion. That being said, on foot, he's a decent boss fight. Still better than like Thor from the main game. After that, I had to hit up the finger ruins.
No! No! I killed y'all already. Y'all supposed to be dead.
Whoa! That's the PTSD. At least these old friends are much easier this time around. For a second, I thought there was only one bell, but I should have known well enough that
There are actually 2 bells of awakening.
okay, technically there's a third one that takes you to the boss fight, but Meter, Mother of Fingers, was another excellent boss fight. I was doing great damage, but just when I thought I had the creature down, it started doing spins, explosions, lasers, summoning minions, the whole 9 yards. But I ain't the Elden Lord for no reason, and the formidable foe fell to me.
This is where it all ends. This is where it all ends. Fuck you. You gone. You gone. The mother of these nuts, nigga. The mother of my left fucking nut, nigga.
At some point in all this, I trekked up the jagged peak to go Drake hunting. So in other words, doing my best K-Dot impersonation.
This team. Let's go! Let's go!
During this, the legend himself, Egon, notices my talents.
Drake Warrior, dear friend, grant me this one wish. Take this finger, my finger, scale the jagged peak, face Baal the Dread, and when you do, summon me. Summon my soul. My limbs are limbs no more. My heart is twice over filled with fear. But a Drake warrior I remain. And my soul yet lies on the mountain.
That I will do, sir. Normally, I stay away from summons, but just like the Star Scourge Radahn fight, I couldn't miss a cinematic experience like this. Plus, I fuck with Egon so hard. It's not like this asshole Bale deserves a fair fight. That motherfucker was eating his own kids. So I do, indeed, climb that mountain. And there he is. Bale the Dread. You might as well ordain Egon as a pastor, because as soon as I summoned him, he started preaching.
You will rue this day. Behold, a true great one, and I, Egon, your fear made flesh. Solid of scale you might be, foul dragon, but I will riddle with holes your rotten hide with a hail of harpoons, with every last drop of my being.
Bale was violently aggressive, and although I had trouble with the camera, this one was simply because I stayed locked on. And the arena was flat, wide, and open, so I wasn't getting sandwiched into walls like the previous fights. Bale must have had something to prove against his top op, because this is head and shoulders a way better boss fight than Dragon Lord Placidusax. I'm sorry, I mispronounced his name. Dragon Lord Placidusax.
What is what? Why? Why? Why did he just teleport like 5 times? Like I'm not gang affiliated in any way, but damn near on Crip here. Oh shit! And then you do that? I can't even hit this nigga. I swear I have not had a chance to hit this nigga in like 2 minutes. Just keep running, bro, because if I get hit by a laser and he this low on health, bro, I'm a fucking snap! Take your pussy ass on somewhere. Take your dead ass, pussy ass, coward ass, cheese ass, bitch ass, assy ass, dead ass on somewhere.
Whereas he is a certified goofy, Bale, albeit a piece of shit, fought like a man. No excessive teleporting, no running away, just swings, fire, lasers, meteorites, and utter rage from both sides. And as I finally took him down, Egon uttered his last words.
Bale the Dread, you shall haunt me no longer.
Even to this day, I still emotionally shudder, nearly shed a tear at those words. 2024 has produced some top tier haters, and at the forefront stand Kendrick Lamar, Drew McIntyre, and Egon. This boss fight is top tier cinema, and as I stared at Egon's lifeless body, I couldn't help but think to myself that he was the embodiment of the fighting spirit. Similar to Roderica, but much more aggressively, Egon did not let fear and trauma take him. Rest well, warrior. Leading into the Abyssal Woods was the Darklight Catacombs, and I gotta take the time to discuss that area's boss. More pussification. I'm questioning my statement about the Golden Hippo earlier, because this boss could easily rank as the worst of the DLC or of the entire game. I'm emotionally conflicted because Jory, the Elder Inquisitor, not only shot, which alone gave me PTSD from bitch ass Sir Gideon, but he was teleporting like a pussbag the whole fight, is it to show Pussy Do Sex how it's really done. Then he starts summoning niggas. What the fuck is this? Make no mistake, this is peak bitch behavior. But you want to know what helps elevate this fight like 3 tiers above Gideon? He actually swung! 1 melee attack! That's all I asked for! Just 1! Top that off with the fact that he was a lot easier to approach than Gideon. The fight wasn't that hard. The gravestones were pretty effective at blocking attacks, and the summons reminded me of the Devoth fight in Doom Eternal. And this fight goes up from a potential #1 worst to a bottom 5 fight in the game. He's still trash, definitely pissed me off, but I gotta give him some credit. Through the abyssal woods, deep within the manse, we find a struggling, decrepit Midra who has been fighting for God knows how long to suppress the dangerous power within him. Life among him and his followers during his studies was peaceful long ago, up until the invasion of the frenzied flame. Nanaya, Midra's wife, which he married in his older years, may have been responsible for this invasion via deception and seduction. She leaves him with the last words of endure, which also might have been another form of her gaslighting him. That word was all he had to keep him from snapping on the rest of the world, on life itself. He even warns us not to approach him, and we don't listen.
Depths of your foolishness!
And that's where, after exuding immeasurable mental strength for years, secluding himself in a room to protect the rest of the world as he cries in agony, he finally gives in.
Enough. I have endured more than enough. I ask you forgive me, dearest Nanaya.
Midra, the Lord of the Frenzied Flame, an outer entity which seeks to destroy everything the Order has built up. The Frenzied Flame wants to desecrate everything and throw the world into chaos. Not only did this knowledge give more meaning to my base game ending, but now I am presented with a unique scenario. I'm not just putting Midra out of his misery to save the world. I'm doing it so that I can take the world myself. The Frenzied Flame is deciding in this battle who is truly worthy enough to carry out its will. Midra is not the Lord of the Frenzied Flame. I am. The imposter did put up yet another top tier boss fight to accompany some top tier lore. Visually, it was fire, pun intended once again. Gameplay wise, it was just as quality as the Renala, Mesmer, and Bale fights. I enjoyed this entire Legacy dungeon, and I hope that Midra has found his peace. But let him be an example to anyone who would attempt to take my throne. Let the same be true for the next enemy, the final boss. So yeah, this boss fight was a doozy. Definitely the hardest boss. Damn it! Ah! As I fought through Inner Elim and made it to the Divine Gateway, there he was, promised consort, Radon. Wait, what? Consort? Who's consort? Well, in any case, the time has come. The rumor was that he was the hardest boss in not just Elden Ring, but in Souls history.
I can personally tell you that the former statement is true by a long shot, even after the initial patch. Malenia and the Divine Beast were easy mode compared to this monster, and the only boss I've heard of being harder than those two was the Elden Beast pre-patches. But this is different from that story. This isn't cheese. This is honest to God, brutal hands. A lot of people think this boss goes way too far into the unfair territory, but if I can quote Average Guy, the man I watched no-hit Radahn to get a better grip on how to fight him, a lot of Radahn's fight isn't unbalanced, it's just unforgiving. Most people complain about his fight just because they haven't fully learned all his moves. This isn't everyone, as I've seen videos criticize him for other reasons by people who have damn near perfected his fight far more than I have. But for me, Radahn usurps Mohg as his body owner and the best boss fight in the game. And the reason why is that he is extremely ungodly difficult, but mostly balanced, in my opinion. Camera was rarely an issue, as it was a big arena, and Radahn was small enough that I was able to stay locked on without putting myself at a disadvantage. Never had any frame rate drops either. Ultimately, he only had two arguably broken attacks. A 2-hit combo that started with a swift swing, which required lightning fast reflexes to dodge, and a 3-hit combo where I couldn't consistently dodge all 3 hits. People were finding ways around these attacks, and taking these hits weren't necessarily fatal in the first stage. I managed to actually no-hit his first stage myself. It's his second stage that gets hectic.
Lord Brother, at long last you are returned. Tarnished one, aspiring Lord of the Old Order. If you have known sin, if you grieve for this world, then yield the path forward to us. To I, Miquella, and my promised consort, Radahn.
No, every god needs a lord consort. Miquella is using the Gate of Divinity to become a god, and his consort is Radahn? His half-brother? This can't be right. They called him Miquella the Kind. Miquella claims to want a more peaceful world, but the means he employed are... Okay, I can see why he divested himself of his flesh, because he wants something different from the Golden Order, but the rest of the shit, he abandoned his love of Saint Trina. He mind-controlled and framed Mohg as a cupcake yearner, sent a hit out on him using us, then used his dead corpse to revive of all people his brother to be his consort. And to make matters worse, Malenia was complicit in all this. She slid on Radahn to soften him up for the kill. I wouldn't be surprised if Miquella charmed her too, though. Miquella manipulated us to kill 2 of his own brothers. So now, against our will, we're complicit in this disgusting plot. He may or may not be mind controlling Radahn right now. He more than likely wasn't down for it in the first place. We know that much. Otherwise, why even fight Malenia? Miquella has used the Gate of Divinity to descend from a kind and loving demigod to a sadistic, psychotic 69 god. You raised a horrible fucking person. The nerve of you, Radican. America, why you ain't raising your kids? What was the purpose of having them? Listen, y'all son is sick man with sick thoughts. Demigods like him should die. And no reason why Mohg and Radahn should be fucked up for the rest of their lives. Fucked up situations like these, ain't nobody coming out as no winner. Miquella should be held as a tyrant, but instead y'all calling him tender. I don't know how to feel about this development, because on the one hand, he wants to marry his own brother.
I'm not very comfortable with that kind of material, to say the least, but then again, I did watch Redo It Healer. Oh god!
Apparently this plot twist has some sort of berserk influence. I'm not very informed on that. I mean, I can't say they glorifying Miquella's behavior. Obviously we're supposed to kill him, and it definitely makes him a disgusting villain. Doesn't take away from the great story that Elden Ring has to offer. It works to make Miquella bad and makes me want to kill him. But that subject matter is just yuck. This second phase is what makes Promised Consort Radahn the hardest fight in Elden Ring. All that damn lightning is blocking my vision, and those two broken ass combos keep knocking me into the lightning, stringing me into fatal combos. I had the most trouble trying to master his attacks than any other boss fight. He pushed me to the point where I started using the Scarlet Rot Aeona, risking trading a fatal blow every time. I had to respec like twice. More than any other boss, he forced me to mess around with my build. I fought this big bastard for 24 hours in 3 days. I fought him so long and my L3 caught stick drift and I had to beat him with a broken controller. But after trial, error, and research, I figured out how to dodge most of his attacks, and I got used to some animations that I didn't think I could. That ground lightning didn't hit me or block my vision much once I stuck to his right side. Then he brought back the most devastating attack in the game, an old technique of his.
I got hit by it again.
Radahn mentally broke me, and after everything I have been through in gaming, after beating Dark Souls, after beating Millennia, the Elden Beast, and the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, made me question whether or not I could beat this game.
But he also motivated me to answer that question.
It's over. I got him! I got him! I got him! I got him! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I got him! Oh my god! That is fucking intense. That is intense, bruh.
Radahn, may you rest in peace. Miquella, may you rest in piss. There's a flashback cutscene from Miquella's memory, likely kneeling at Radahn's seat at the Elden Throne. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to feel off this piece of info, but I know what I was thinking.
He a fan, he a fan, he a fan. He a fan, he a fan, he a...
Elden Ring's quality is so refined that in my humble opinion, you almost have to be a nitpicky asshole to come up with legitimate criticisms. Luckily, I fit the job description. Most criticisms of this game, in my opinion, fall under 3 categories: minuscule, subjective, or cap, or a combination of the 3. It's just hard for me to find anything to criticize about this game that's a big deal. That ain't camera angle. Cause I can tell you right now, that shit is trash. Gotta call a spade a spade. Even with the learned knowledge that I ain't supposed to lock on for the whole fight, for big bosses in particular, like I mentioned earlier, that still don't help when a huge boss got you pinned against a wall and you can't see the animations. Oh, what about the times where I click R3 just for my camera to randomly flail in the opposite direction of the intended target? This happened to me multiple times. How am I supposed to fight properly when my camera decides to just start swinging wildly? Hey! That's right. If dude actually pressed the damn stick, he'd have actually had a point. That shit is crazy when you think about it. Alright, man. Big ass bosses and small arenas ain't it. And there's quite a few of them, mostly in the DLC. Only a handful, but still worth noting. There's the Gaius fight for not making Torah an intuitive and viable option. The Godskin duo fight just sucks, man. I gotta call it. It's just hard to separate the two without getting shot at with black flames from a distance. The Crucible duo is a way better fight, as it meshes better with the design of the game. They were easier to separate, and the attacks are much more fair and predictable to dodge, as long as both of them ain't half HP at the same time. The inconsistent stagger on attack from certain bosses is bogus, and that actually concerns me. Any gameplay mechanics that's just blatantly inconsistent and unfair are obviously going to be my top priority for complaint. And while it hasn't reared its ugly head a lot, if this becomes a trend in future FromSoft games, it could be a potential problem. But I ain't going to doom and gloom until Miyazaki actually folds. The man has more than deserved my fair judgment. The rest of my criticisms are pretty small, petty even. Like the precise accuracy required to remove the blue marker lights both on the map and in the world. Kinda reminds me of something. Oh yeah!
Because you have to look directly at the loot to pick it up. So if you're standing by a weapon, you're not picking it up unless you look down. And you have to be pretty accurate with the cursor as well. Precision looting, the future of shooters.
See? I told you I fit the bill. I almost feel like I'm clout chasing complaining about some stupid shit like that. And I'm not done. I'm not sure if this is a me thing, but I consistently had this issue, mainly in boss fights, where I would be locked out of using a flask after certain animations for like 5 to 20 frames. And my character would sit there and do nothing, requiring me to press the flask button again. I do know there are certain animations that are designed like this, and that's fair. But if there is some sort of glitch that also causes the same issue, then that's something to look out for. Walking off small ledges will inconsistently interrupt your flask animations, which is kind of weird. Maybe we should be able to ride Torrent in more places, except Abyssal Woods, but if y'all do patch them in for there, I won't complain either. Frame rate drops for the Divine Beast fight got pretty bad, and I died to them a couple times. Moderate to mid-high texture pop in, especially in the DLC. Sometimes you can't summon cooperators for no reason, but that's about it. The repeat bosses weren't an issue, especially since most of them fought differently in some sort of capacity. The extra Smith and Stones in the DLC only added to the massive amount of new content. Gaius wasn't a bad fight despite the design issues. Cranking up the enemy combo animations to 11 turned me up, resulting in Radahn being my favorite boss fight. The Scadutree fragment system didn't feel like an overbearance. I really found myself disagreeing with a lot of the criticism I heard about the game online, but I see most of these complaints as reasonable, subjective stances. This game isn't gonna bring everyone together by searching out. It brought this many people together by pulling in, by being itself. Shadow of the Erdtree was special for me because I beat the base game right before the DLC came out. I got to experience an all-time great game, and after a short period of 3 weeks chomping at the bit, ready to slide, I got to essentially experience it for the first time all over again, back to back, and it did not disappoint. This DLC, much like Helldivers 2, was a complete game for $40. The art style managed to differentiate itself from the base game while still retaining variety. The refined boss fights offered worthy, satisfying challenges that fulfilled my chase of glory, accomplishment, and overall fun. Elden Ring as a whole has a deep combat system, massive loot pool, complex and compelling progression and build system, and a captivating, non-linear, multi-layered, multi-ending story with multiple themes that can be pieced together with visuals, dialogue, item descriptions, lore videos, and most importantly, your own interpretation. The music complemented each setting and situation at a high quality. The Elden Beast theme still brings me close to tears. Lastly, Promise Consort Radahn is the most epic boss encounter I've ever had. An absolute mental war. It's the only boss fight that can match up to the Icon of Sin and overall quality, in my opinion. Or at least that I've played so far in my life. The devs stuck to their guns, not compromising the core values of Souls games to chase trends at a cost of quality. I am damn happy to have experienced this game in all its glory. It's not a perfect game, but a perfect game doesn't exist. This is about as close as we're going to get right now, which is absurd seeing as to how Miyazaki still has fire in his soul. If this, think about it, if this right here isn't his ideal RPG experience, what is? What more can you possibly do? The fact that the world stopped twice for the same game, both base and for a DLC, is a generational event that we may not see again in this lifetime. But that damn sure won't stop From Software from trying. Bro, y'all even got the Viper, the Legend Killer, the Apex Predator of the WWE, Randy Orton, out here sliding with damn near 600 hours. How? How did y'all? Oh my God.
I was out with spinal fusion surgery, so I had a lot of time on my hands.
Sure.
I've got like 600 hours on the game.
600 hours on Elden Ring.
Yeah. I would love to chop it up about some Elden Ring with you. Trust me.
I wish I knew more about it.
I wish you were a fellow Tarnished, but you're not.
In a conversation about the greatest games of all time, Elden Ring deserves more than a mere mention. Probably the best thing about beating both Dark Souls and Elden Ring is that there are 5 other similar adventures in the FromSoft catalog to explore. And as a matter of fact, I tell y'all right now, I'm well into probably the most underrated and unique of these games, as I have begun the hunt. And these titles will only increase my appreciation for this game. That is, they are destined to brandish the Elden Ring. Here we go, folks. Wow. I don't have much to say left. I done said a lot. You know, on the one hand, I should not have procrastinated on this game. But on the other hand, I almost chose the right time to get on it again. You know, I'm working on Bloodborne. More than likely going to be the next review. I just want to thank y'all for stopping by again. I know this video was once again long. I love doing long form content, like so I can just say as much as I get out as much as I possibly can, you know. And with this game is so big and vast. It's like these had to be like hour-long videos. I just want to thank y'all for stopping by. I'm gonna keep it short. This is P34J. I'm smoking that Sir Gideon pack. Mikola is a 69 god. Have a good one.